Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Nature of Predators Book 2. If you're new to this series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 14. Memory Transcription Subject, Tassie Bison Scientist. Date, Standardized Human Time, March 20th, 2160. My day-to-day life was a whirlwind, as we booked it back to Ivrana to put a muzzle on the Tassia's beaks. I could only imagine the insane councillor's discontent being asked to furnish our diplomatic boat with the most likely outcome of killing a prominent scientist, a high-ranking general, and the most notorious member of the First Contact team, who happened to be from the galaxy's predominant power. Renewed efforts were put into contacting Tassia through diplomatic channels, but the radio silence persisted. Knowing that my time might be ticking down, I studied every piece of alien media that I could on the ride back. General Naltor was even willing to watch the venerable human war movie called Escape from the Cradle, which was one of the first films Terrans made in conjunction with an alien species. The First Contact team had set up movie night, displaying their traditions of eating puffy kernels of popcorn. Sadly, Bisons couldn't share in that. Aliska had come for the popcorn, but left before the movie's violent opening. It was strange to think that I was watching an interpretation of what destroyed Nulia's world. That such a catastrophe had been turned into a story entertainment. There were many specifics that Naltor and I didn't understand, such as the mass stampedes at the humans' arrival. I inferred that was what the cogent sociologist meant by her village panicking. I think that the galaxy found Dustin's kind that monstrous to instill such senseless response. Was that how they saw Bisons? Would they see me as an abomination to run away from? That thought broke my heart into tiny pieces. I had grasped that there were prejudices against us, but not how fundamentally abhorrent we were to them. I wasn't sure what I could do to maintain our image that would transcend that fact. However much things had changed during the 23-year duration, Aliska's mind had kicked into flight mode as we welcomed her, and she had trained to face what we were, as though carnivores was something that required exposure to tolerate. We're risking our lives to save First Contact, not just because of opportunities of Bison kind, but because Ivrana hangs in the balance. How am I supposed to not just fend off accusations of wanting to eat people, but to stop other Bisons like the Tassia from panicking at the truth? How did humans do it? The final day of our voyage, on descent back to Lisman, came without offering any assurances. I couldn't help but feel woefully underqualified for the tasks on my plate. None of my thought exercises about First Contact had prepared me for this. General Naltor had been focused on quietly making arrangements, ensuring that word was sent back to his family in the Huddledom, despite the fact that they disowned him after his exodus. I mulled over what I'd squawked at the Tassia, even as I listened in on the human broadcasts and peeked at animated media. If only I could haul away and absorb knowledge about their lives, without complications burdening some. Still, timed and slow for my troubles. Dustin, Naltor, and I loaded onto a small Lessium ferry, like fish swimming into a net. I listened to some alien music for part of the ride before giving up on my escapism. Had enough of the Terran entertainment machine, Doctor. The human leaned out over the railing, admiring the sea spray and searching for the coastline. You still haven't peeked at our sports, Tassie. You might enjoy our fishing competitions. There's also some video games that are just about sailing or diving underwater. I leaned back with exhaustion. How can you be so calm with all that's hinging on our travels? We're almost within the range where the Tassia normally starts shooting. I'm at peace. I said my goodbyes to my adopted brother, Jamek. You would like his artwork. He's got a penchant for portraits, done some for really important individuals. I bet he'd nail your likeness. He'd see the same fire in the universe that I see in your eyes. I hope that we get a chance to know each other better. I would have liked that, actually. What is it that you want to know? We have a few minutes left. Dustin tilted his head and thought. I wish I knew what you were like on a personal level. I think we'd be friends, Tassie, given enough time. What would you be if you weren't an FAI scientist? Dead, I guess. Figuring out what's in the stars was all I was ever interested in. The hypotheticals always captured me. It's a place I retreat to in my mind, a fixture of my identity. My family never understood my obsession or why it mattered so much, but space is a single thing that ever fascinated me. Maybe I could have been an astronaut, but then I would have been a passenger, not a scientific mover. Dead, she says. Bold. I don't think anyone's answered that icebreaker quite like that. There's got to be something else. You seem to like movies and shows. Because they're your shows. They speak about how you viewed the world, your past, your emotions, your forms of expression, and your criteria for artwork. The slightest differences between things we take for granted, such as wealth of information to be gleaned. I've liked by some shows, sure, but they were always related to aliens. I used to go to the space expedition conventions, fictional by some explorers with a mission similar to the FAI. I guess I'm always the nerdiest person in the room, no matter what company I'm in. An amused rumble passed through his chest. I'd give you a run for your money. When I first moved to Skulker, I read the entire xenobiology textbook for fun. How creatures evolve and specialize. It makes the world make sense. The things I could have told you about Earth animals from the time I was in elementary school. You would have been surprised anyone cared about such things. Meanwhile, I intimidated my teachers into passing me in my classes, Naltor remarked, mischief twinkling in his eyes. Well, that's not true, but you believed it for a second. You got to be curious about something in the universe, Naltor. There had to be some subject that spoke to you. Do my strategy classes with the Sulmore Military College count? I scoffed. That's not something that invokes wonder and curiosity. There's more to this world than fighting and killing. That's reductive thinking. It's important to know how to protect yourself from any threat. There's some wisdom to be gleaned from cleverness of any kind, just like learning how scientists made their discoveries, Dustin mused. Tactics makes you think about what lines you're willing to cross. Beyond that, there's some lessons in war that translates to other parts of life. Never stop your enemy when they're making a mistake. Ha! I like that. It's a shame I don't see you as an enemy. So I had no choice but to try and stop you from this mistake. I could throw you overboard and save Tessia, the missiles. You are a disturbed man. The Tessia have to realize that a war with us isn't to anyone's benefit. We just need to assure them that we can work together despite this carnival crap. Yeah, the nomads don't do that working together shite. Naltor, shut up. The Sulmore chuckled to himself, contented with the alien's rebuke. I stared at the enemy seas and thought over what Dustin had said about xenobiology, occupying all of his brain space. He might have been the first person who seemed to understand what it was like to need to learn everything possible about a subject, down to the smallest minutiae. Well, someone like Naltor would find at a snooze fest, I would kill to get my flippers on a textbook like that. The things the humans could tell me about each species' evolution. There were 300 of them out there, and I knew so few. On account of that tragedy alone, I was determined to survive long enough to learn them all. I really just know the Vendel, Yotel, Gojit, Dafki, Durton, Crocotl, and Oxor. There's so much left for me to learn. Whatever they think of Bisoms, I have to show the Sapien Coalition who we are. I have to rise to the occasion. The GPS locator showed that we crossed the official boundary of Tessia Seas. I rose to my feet, waddling over to the receiver in case I needed to talk to them. If the nomads would shoot down diplomats at once for the slightest intrusion, our fate was already sealed. My heartbeat quickened as I waited to see the supersonic missiles would crest the horizon. There was no sign of a response from Ulsh until an incoming transmission was targeted at us. The fact that we received a verbal warning was a positive sign. They didn't want the hostilities associated with shooting down a civilian boat, whatever Naltor might think. This is Ulsh Lighthouse, Lysane boat. Turn back at once. You're trespassing into Tessia territory, and no amount of goodwill between us gives you that right. A stern voice squawked through the radio. The speaker addressed us in flawless writ. I steadied myself before pressing a button in response. We need to speak to Tessia about the aliens. This affects all Bisoms. We need to understand each other and be on the same page. If there's something you've learned about them, it benefits us all to share. If there's one moment where we have to work together, it is now. This will define the entire planet's future, whether it has one at all. The voice was quiet for a long moment. To whom am I speaking? Dr. Tassi, with fishing for alien intelligence. I'm a scientist. Our ferry is diplomatic and unarmed. You're welcome to search it, or to transfer us to one of your ships, if that's your concern. We need to have a conversation and get channels reopened. Please, at least hear out what we've learned. It can only help you. What is your name? Zulk. I'm in charge of the Tassia Coast Guard. You're fortunate I have the authority to not shoot you down. What you've said about Ivana having a future, it's why, if you knew what's good for you, you'd cut ties with the aliens. You'd see through all those grand promises Dustin told the crowds about peace and progress. Don't trust that thing. Why are you so certain these aliens are a bad thing? I'm sure whatever's soured your opinion, it can be explained. I strongly doubt that. The sands of Ulsh were becoming visible on the fringes of my vision, along with a waiting army of Tassia on speedboats. The lighthouse was further back, rusted and looming over the obscured continent. This is your last warning, Tassie. Turn the feck back. You'll have to shoot me, Zulk. Is that what the Tassia stand for? Gunning down scientists who want nothing more than world peace and to represent Bisons in a unified way. I didn't believe it was. Neither did that alien who was willing to risk his life to understand why you're afraid of him. If you have concerns about Dustin, the best way to handle them is to question him in person. The alien is aboard your vessel? He is. And he's aware of your threat to shoot him on sight. That he's not welcome. We're all aware that we're not welcome. Dustin wanted to go alone so he wouldn't endanger us. He came all this way to try and save Ivana, and he's willing to die for our sake, Zulk. You have to listen. I'm listening. It might be valuable to subdue him and acquire intelligence, since it appears he can't fight back. Questioning a Xeno alive, the only prospect more fascinating than putting him at the bottom of the sea. My beak parted in alarm. Just what are you thinking of doing to him? That depends on the answers Dustin gives, I imagine. Don't worry your little head, Ritrala. I'll ask for clearance from the elders on how to proceed, and I might be able to tell you everything soon. It might be beneficial for us to stop Lassman from crawling into a tight box with these terrors. Naltor shoved me aside, features grimacing with outrage. What are you going to do with us in the meantime? Ah, the Selmo General from the broadcast. Naltor, is it? We're going to detain you, since you so expressly wished to talk. I can probably let you watch as we extract information from that thing by any means necessary. Stop this madness. What is wrong with you? You can't lay a flipper on him. Dustin might be an alien, but he's a civilian, a humble scientist, and a surprisingly pleasant fellow at that. Civilian? As if that matters. Whatever think you know, Salmo, save your breath. You and your alien friend better lie out, face down on the deck. Resist, and we'll put a bullet in your skulls. Why don't you pass that message along? Wait, Zulk, it doesn't have to be like this. We could talk over the radio, I pleaded. Dustin would talk willingly. He better. I'll see you soon, Tassie. Zulk disconnected from the channel. As the Coast Guard boats closed in on us, Dustin's complexion had lightened, though he stretched out on the ground, grumbling something about being the new Marcel. Wasn't that the name of the human who took Nulia in? What did that mean? I didn't feel right about letting the Tassia capture him, when all they said their questioning would be less than civilized. The thought of them using advanced interrogation tactics on my fellow nerd made me shudder. After having already washed up on Ulsh's shores, there wasn't much that we could do. I suppose I should have been relieved that they didn't just sink us, sharing a glance with the irate Naltor. I laid out alongside Dustin and nudged him to offer some comfort. I swear Zulk decided to spare us once he heard that he could get his flippers on an alien, like Dustin would be some live test subject to them. I've got to try and talk them out of this, to figure out why Tassia are doing this, and what it'll take to stop them. I won't let my friend from the stars suffer in Bison custody. If Aliska was afraid of our friendly welcome feast, what would she think of this reception? Naltor grumbled. I bet she'd make us swim for it. It's not too late for you to do the same, Dustin. The human chuckled half-heartedly. Hallie wouldn't be alone in having that desire right about now, though I imagine it's an exercise in futility at this point. I'm glad that I didn't let her and Nudia come along. Hopefully they're, having a better time meeting the other nations. Well, that's about guaranteed. It's tough to be worse off. You really inspire optimism, Naltor. Remind me to never follow you into battle. Optimism gets you captured by crazy nomads. Realism is a better philosophy to aspire to. Maybe you're right. I should have listened, not to talk to them. I mean, I knew the risks, but I shouldn't have agreed for you and Tassie to come along.
I drew a shaky breath. We're in this together, like Nalto said. I'll do everything I can. I'll make sure someone knows about how they welcomed you.
I hope you do, but I don't want to start a war. Just save Avrana. That's what matters to me. Goodbye, Tassie. Tassia's soldiers stormed onto the vessel, with every one of them surrounding Dustin. The mid-sized bisons had yellow crests protruding from the sides of their heads, beneath their helmets. Several bodies restrained him, ensuring that he was tightly bound. They bagged his head before hauling him to his feet with a rough grasp. I couldn't help but notice the strange expression on their faces, though that might have been because it was their first time seeing an alien. I squeezed my eyes shut as they cuffed me, with only a touch more delicacy. Nalto's outraged barks echoed beside me. The nomad's greeting party placed a bag atop my head, blocking out any vision I might have had of Ulsh. Powerless to stop whatever their intentions were for Dustin and for us, I allowed myself to be herded to a different boat and ferried to the shore. Horror flooded my chest once I overheard the chatter between Tassia's soldiers. It wasn't the standard questions or apprehensions that floated through the Lasman military when the aliens landed. The sick bastards were laughing, practically rubbing their flippers together in glee at the prospective remarks about ripping the human open. How could any bison respond to our first visitor from another sapient species by relishing in the idea of his suffering? I couldn't begin to understand what would drive such a sickening behavior. General Nalto had been right about this being a mistake, no matter how necessary it seemed to our mission. As we disembarked onto dry land, I racked my brain in desperation to think of a way to get the human out unharmed. If the Tassia wanted to torment Dustin, they'd have to get through me. I would fight to stop this, in any way that I could. End of chapter. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.